Hi everyone, I am Rahul Kumar. Now this year, ISRO released Indian Space Policy 2023 that had been in the work of the same years. The policy has been welcomed as a progression towards India's entry into new space age. However, it needs to be followed up the suitable legislation accompanied by clear rules and regulations. Until early 1990s, Indian space industry and space economy were defined by ISRO. Private sector involvement was limited to building ISRO design and specifications. So, the Indian Space Policy 2023 unveils the government's plan to let private enterprises carry out end-to-end activities from launching satellite and rocket into space to operating Earth station. So, what are the India's past quest to reforms in its space sector? First is satellite communication policy. It was introduced in 1997 with guidelines for foreign direct investment in the satellite industry that were further liberalized but never generated much enthusiasm. Second is remote sensing data policy. It was introduced in 2001, which was amended in 2011, in 2016, and it was replaced by the National Geospatial Policy that has been further liberalized in 2022. Third is Draft Space Activity Bill. It was brought out in 2017, which went out a long consecutive process and lapsed in 2019 with the outgoing Lok Sabha. The government was expected to introduce a new bill by 2021, but it appeared to have content itself with a new policy statement released by ISRO. So now, look, why there is a need to introduce private player into space sector. First reason is India's lag far behind the space economy. The global digital space economy is currently valued at about 360 billion US dollar, despite being one among a few space-faring nations in the world. India accounts for only about 2% of the space economy. Second is harnessing the full potential of India's space sector. Today, while ISRO's budget is approximately 1.6 billion US dollar, India's space economy is over 9.6 US billion dollars. Broadband, OTT, and 5G promises is double-digit in annual growth of satellite-based activities. It is estimated that with the enabling environment, the Indian space industry could grow in 60 US billion dollar by 2030, directly creating more than 2 lakh jobs. Third is private sector has revolutionized the space sector. Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, Virgin Galactic have revolutionized the space sector by reducing cost and turned around the time, while India's, however, the player with the private space industry have been limited to being vendors or suppliers to the government space program. Fourth is enhancing security. The security and defense agencies spend nearly $1 billion annually to procure Earth observation data and imagery from the foreign sources. This much reliance on the foreign entities can put India's security at risk. Fifth is bringing Atmanirbharta in space sector. Today, more than half of the transponders beaming TV signal into space homes are hosted on the foreign satellite, resulting in an annual outflow of over $500 million. Sixth is promoting entrepreneurship in space sector. There is a need to promote private sector activity in all the high technology areas, including space, to fully unlock the potentials of India's youth and entrepreneurs. To realize this vision, it is necessary to enable the private entities within the Indian space sector to establish themselves as an independent player capable to end-to-end space activities. Seventh is making space industry as per the global industry, promoting the private sector which enable the Indian space program to remain cost competitiveness within the global space markets and thus create several jobs in the space and other related sectors. So now look, what is Indian Space Policy 2023? So their vision is to enable, encourage and develop to flourishing the commercial presence in space that suggests to acceptance that the private sector is a critical space stakeholder in the entire value chain of the space economy. So let's see what's the key highlight. First is the policy creates 4 distinct but related entities that will facilitate greater private sector participation in activities that have usually been a traditional domain for the ISRO. Second is in space, Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Centers in space. It will be a single window clearance and authorizations agency for space launches to establishing a launch pad, buying and selling satellite and dismantling high resolution data among the other things. It will also share technologies, products, process, and best practices with non-government entities, and this will include private companies and government companies. In space will create a stable and profitable regulatory frameworks that will ensure a level playing field for non-government entities. It will act as a promoter by scaling up industry clusters and as a regulator, issue guidelines on liberty issues. Third is New Space India Limited. It will be responsible for commercializing space technology and platforms created through a public expenditures as well as manufacturing, leasing or procuring space components, technologies, platforms and other assets from the private sector. Fourth is Department of Space. It will provide overall policy guidelines and be the nodal department for implementing space technology and among the other things coordinate industrial international cooperation and coordination in the area of the global space governance and programs in consultation with the Ministry of External Affairs. It will also create an opportunities mechanism to resolve the dispute arising out of space activity, rationalizing the role of ISRO. It states that ISRO will transition out of the existing practice of being present in manufacturing of operational space systems. Hereafter, mature systems shall be transformed into the industry for commercial uses. ISRO shall focus on R&D in advanced technology, providing a newer system and realization of space objects for meeting a national programs. Progress. ISRO will share technology, products, processes, and best practices with other government and non-government companies. This will make ISRO use its strength on cutting-edge research and development and long-term projects such as Chandrayaan and Gaganyaan. So, look, private sector roles. First is non-government entities are allowed to undertake end-to-end activities in the space sector through establishment and operation of space objects, ground-based assets and related services such as communication, remote sensing, navigation, etc. Second is satellite could be self-owned, procured or leased. Communication services could be over India's outside and remote sensing data could be dismantled in India's or abroad. NSE can design or operate launch vehicle for the space transportation and establish their own infrastructures. Fourth is NSE can now make a filing with the International Communication Union and engage in commercial recovery of asteroid resources. So fifth is the entire gamut of space activities is now open to the private sector. Security agencies can talk the non-government entities for procuring tailor-made solution to address the specific requirements. Now, what are the gaps in the policy? First is the policy set out an ambitious role in space but provide no time frame for the necessary steps ahead. Second is neither is there a inductive timeline for ISRO transitioning out of its the current practices, nor there is a schedule for in space to create a regulatory framework. Third is the policy framework envisaged will need clear rules and regulations pertaining to FDI and licensing, government procurement to sustain a new space startups, liability in case of violation, and an affiliate framework for dispute settlement. Fourth is InSpace is a regulatory body but doesn't have a legislative authority. Fifth is InSpace is expected to authorize space activities for all, both government and non-government entities. Currently, its position is ambitious as its function under the purview of Department of Space. Now, what should be done to fill this gap? First is the Space Policy 2023 is a forward-looking document reflecting good intention and a vision, but it is not enough. Why? What urgently needs its time to frame to provide a necessary legal framework to translate this vision into reality to successfully launch in India into the second space age. Second is the government should bring a bill that grants statutory status in space and also set out time limits for both ISRO and InSpace. The bill should also address the ambiguity related to foreign investment, government support for new space startups. So if you want to download this PDF, please check in the description link. And thanks for watching friends. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like and comment.